Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be talking about 5 foods that might be causing you some excess gas and bloating. And of course, I'll give you some alternatives to those foods because we've all got to eat, it's got to taste good, and I like to help with that kind of stuff. So I'm just heading to the grocery store now so I can give you guys some visuals about what we're talking about, and so you're not just looking at my face the whole time, but I am going to head home after that and do most of the talking for this video there. So there can be a lot of different causes for gas and bloating, ranging from stress, infections, to an imbalance of your microbiome. So you really want to get to the root of the problem. But sometimes you just need relief of these symptoms, and quite often reducing or eliminating certain gas-forming foods can really help. Passing some gas is normal. Up to about 20 times a day is fairly average according to the US Library of Medicine. So don't think we're aiming for 0 here. Some gas is normal, but if it becomes excessive, you know if it's a problem. And you probably want to fix it. So the first food we're going to talk about today that can cause excess gas and bloating, and I hate to do it, but it is garlic. So garlic contains what are known as fructans, high amounts of it, and those are a type of oligosaccharide, and our body cannot digest them. However, the microbes that's in our gut do produce the enzyme that's called alpha galactosidase that is required to digest it. However, if our microbiome is not up to the task, what happens is it travels further along in our digestive tract through the small intestine into the large intestine and then ferments there, and that's where we get all the gas and bloating. So raw garlic seems to be the worst for me, at least, but it doesn't seem to matter for a lot of people if it's raw garlic, cooked garlic, or even garlic powder, which is in so many of my recipes. One way to combat this, if you still want to add that garlic flavor to meals, is to actually infuse oil with garlic. So you guys know I'm not a big fan of just haphazardly dumping oil on all our meals and just using it everywhere. However, if it does serve a purpose like this, I don't see a problem with using it here and there. The flavor of the garlic is transferred into the oil, and because the fructans, which is the gas-causing component of it, is not oil or fat soluble, it stays in the garlic, but you still get the flavor. So to do this, it's really easy. You just want to heat up some high-quality, cold-pressed, extra virgin olive oil, just so it's warm to the touch. You definitely don't want to cook it. You don't want to bring it to a smoking point or to a boil or anything like that. Pop some garlic cloves into a jar, whole garlic cloves if you want a more mellow flavor, or half them or chop them up if you want a stronger flavor. Then pour the oil over that, wait a couple hours, strain it, then just pop it into the fridge. You want to use this oil within about 3 to 5 days to be safe, because after that some bacteria can start to grow in there and we don't want that at all. But if you do want to make like a big batch of it, or you haven't used it up, you can definitely freeze it and then use it from there. It will kind of compromise the flavor a bit, but not totally. And then just cook your food in it or add it to some salads or whatever you want, but be sparingly with oil, because you guys know, it's not something we just want to be using willy-nilly. I think that's the first time I've used willy-nilly in a video. Food number 2 is onions. And you guys know this one hurts me too because I love cooking with onions. But just like with garlic, they're high in the oligosaccharide fructans, and that can definitely cause a lot of gas and bloating. So it doesn't matter whether you eat them raw, if you cook them, if you have them in like a soup and then take them out before you eat it, the oligosaccharides are going to be infused into that meal. So yeah, there's really no way around that. Unless you want to do the same thing that we did with the garlic with onions and infuse some oil with that. But what you can also do is just use the green tips of spring onions or chives, because the green tips don't have high amounts of fructans. But what I like to do if I find that I'm having problems with gas and bloating is to kind of avoid it completely, because onions do contain some sulfur compounds that can cause gas and bloating aside from the oligosaccharides. But what you can do is just add some fresh herbs to your meal, stuff like parsley, basil, cilantro, and I find that when I add this, I don't miss onions at all. Food number 3 is fake meats. So I know I've been like ripping on them a lot lately, and they can definitely be convenient, and there's a time and a place for them. So if you're going out for dinner and they're like on the menu, you just want something like really comforting, or you're transitioning from a more traditional diet, they can be really helpful. However, they can also really mess up your digestion. The combination of highly processed protein isolates, stabilizers, additives, low quality oils, loads of salt can definitely cause gas and bloating and other digestive symptoms. Not to mention, many of them contain garlic and onion powders, which we just mentioned can cause issues. So some people likely do fine on these. However, if gas and bloating is a consistent issue for you and you're consistently eating these foods, you might want to cut them out for a while and see how you do. As an alternative, you can look for ones that have fewer ingredients and are made from something like seitan, or even better, make your own. So there are lots of different seitan recipes out there on the internet, and I'm sure some of you probably have your own that you're using already. Food number 4, certain beans. So we all know, we've heard the saying, beans, the more you eat, the more you... But what is it that's causing the issue? Well, like some of those foods that we mentioned before, beans are very high in oligosaccharides, and one in particular that is called raffinose. So again, some of us might not possess enough microbes in our gut to properly digest them. So soaking beans for a few hours before cooking can help reduce those gas-forming components, but you definitely want to discard the water before cooking with them. However, if you have real issues digesting them, that is not going to be enough. Some of the higher raffinose containing beans are black beans, lima beans, and navy beans. Soaking beans for a few hours before cooking can definitely help to reduce those gas-forming components. However, for people that have big problems with them, it is definitely not enough. So some of the lower raffinose containing beans and pulses are lentils, split peas, and black-eyed peas, which are also known as cowpeas. So if you want to take it a step further than just soaking them, if you soak them for a really long time, eventually they will start to sprout. And it takes about 24 hours for most beans and legumes, lentils, whatever, to start sprouting. And you'll notice that they start growing like a tiny little tail. And when you see this, that means that they have sprouted, and this actually helps to convert some of those oligosaccharides into different starches that are easier for our body to digest. And if you are going to soak them for the full 24 hours to try and get them to sprout, what you want to do is discard that water a few times while you're doing it, because what will happen is the oligosaccharides leach out into the water, but then as the beans start to swell up, they can absorb some of them back in. So you want to get rid of that water at least 2 or 3 times over that 24-hour cycle. And if you have a little bit of extra money in your pocket, or you just want the convenience, you can actually find sprouted beans and chickpeas and lentils and stuff in stores nowadays that are dried and just ready to be cooked like that. Some people find that canned beans and lentils are less gas forming than if you cook them at home on your own, and that just has to do with the canning process. However, you do want to rinse all that like liquid and everything off before you eat them. So beans and lentils are some of the healthiest foods that we can be eating. So you definitely don't want to discard them completely and just give up on them. The best thing that you can do is to start eating them in small amounts. Our microbiome will adjust over time, but you have to start slow. Just think that you're like, babying it along. So you just want to feed it a little bit at a time, maybe just starting, if it's really bad for you, starting with a couple tablespoons and then working up from there. To build up your microbiome, it's better to have small amounts more frequently than it is to just have a load at one time. Food number 5, or should I say foods at number 5, are cruciferous vegetables. So these are well known for having fairly high levels of that raffinose that we just talked about, but also some sulfur compounds that can really cause some gas and bloating in people. So some of the higher content ones are broccoli, cauliflower, green cabbage, and Brussels sprouts. Needless to say, these are all extremely healthful foods. However, it's not fun to eat them, nor is it encouraging to eat them if they cause excess gas or bloating. So cooking them can definitely help to break down some of the fibers that'll make it easier for our body to digest, and boiling them tends to be the best way to cook them to kind of reduce all of that. However, you're going to lose some nutrition as well in that cooking water. So just as with beans, if you find that these are causing you problems, you definitely want to start with smaller amounts that are cooked and then work your way up from there. So it's also important to remember that our bodies don't care or seem to know where these oligosaccharides are coming from. So if you just have a small amount of a bunch of high fructan or high raffinose containing foods on your plate, it's all going to add up. So just keep that in mind when you're building your meals. Some vegetables that are very low in that raffinose content are carrots, bok choy, red bell pepper, turnips, cucumber, arugula, sprouts, and most lettuces, and definitely squash as well. So I'm definitely not trying to make anyone shy away from these foods, but if you are having excess gas and bloating, hopefully this video has given you some clues as to what might be causing it. So something that you can do is start a food journal. You want to eat more simply and then note down what foods you're having at certain meals and then see how you feel later on. So it's not always just like 30 minutes after a meal that you'll notice like gas or bloating. Sometimes it takes 6 to 8 hours for your food to travel down through your small intestine into your large intestine, and sometimes even longer than that. So this is why food journaling can help, so that you can look back and see patterns. So I feel like after all that, I should give you some tips on how to help your digestion. I have a few videos on this, but just some quick ones that I found have helped me out is one, starting your day with some lemon water. So all I do is just like a quarter of a lemon in a bunch of water, and then I drink that down before I have anything. So this will kind of wake up your digestive tract and prepare you for the foods that you're about to eat. Depending on the strength of it, it can be a little bit hard on your enamel. So after you're done drinking that, you definitely want to rinse with just totally clear water, and you want to avoid brushing for at least 30 minutes after that, because your enamel will be soft for a little while after consuming the lemon water. Staying hydrated is also really important, because the more fiber you eat, the more water it's going to take to keep everything moving smoothly. So make sure you stay hydrated throughout the day. And then having some vinegar with your foods can actually help to increase your stomach acid, which will help to break down the food so that your enzymes and all the stuff that's going on down there doesn't have as much work to do. Speaking of helping everything out down there, you definitely want to chew your food a lot. This is one thing that is so simple and will help to improve your digestion right away, is just chew your food a lot, like 30, 35 times each mouthful until it turns into like a paste. You don't want to be swallowing big chunks of food for various reasons, but definitely chew your food lots. And then another one is to calm down before you eat. So many of us just eat on the run and we're just, doing so many things, but in order to fully activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the one that helps us to digest our food, we need to be in a calm state. So take a few minutes, take some deep breaths before you eat, look at your meal, appreciate where it came from, just like look at all the beautiful foods that are there, and you'll digest your food much better. Oh yeah, another one is to move after you eat. So after you have a big meal, maybe try going out for a 20 or 30-minute walk, because this is so great for our digestion. It just helps everything move along. We don't want stuff to be stuck in there, just kind of fermenting and causing gas. And if you just sit on the couch for a while after you eat, this could definitely happen. So get out, move around for at least 20 or 30 minutes. It will do wonders for your digestion. And then in acute situations, sometimes digestive enzymes can help. So there's an enzyme called alpha galactosidase, and that is actually the enzyme that the microbes in our gut create in order to digest many of the foods that we just talked about, beans especially, but also cabbage and the cruciferous vegetables. So look for one that contains alpha galactosidase, but if you can get one that's like a full spectrum plant enzyme, that's probably even going to be better. But the enzymes are not something that you want to rely on long term. Like I said, they can be helpful in acute situations. So if you've eaten something that you know is going to make you gassy and you have like a big business meeting or you're going on a hot date or something, they can be helpful there, but it's not something that you want to rely on long term. Like I mentioned in the beginning, you want to get to the root of the problem. All right, so that's it for this video. I hope you all learned something from it. I think this video is going to be very helpful for a lot of people, so feel free to send it to someone that you know has excess gas and bloating. I'm sure they won't mind, and they'll appreciate the information that they can then apply to their life. So definitely like the video if you think it helped you out, subscribe that you can see more, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought of these tips, and if you have any for yourself that I might have missed, so that we can all learn and get better digestion. Thank you all for watching. See you on the next one. Into the oil. And because the fructans, gosh, I can't say that. Fructans. Okay, whatever, I'll just roll with it. Okay, I can't say that word. Fructans. Does that sound right? Fructans?